on the intro.
Good.
And welcome back to I Need to Turn the Light On Beerfield Fantasy Football. There we go. Hey, there we go. I'm light again. I am your host at Hot BFF with 2Ps, coming to you live from St. Louis, Missouri. As always, joined by my host at 30 BFF, coming to you live from Springfield, Illinois. Dan, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm tired.
I'm bringing the energy.
Let's go. Bring the energy, guys. We're crafted. We're born for this. We're like
by
Lady Gaga.
Probably misquoted Bane at some point. We got a show for you today. I'd say it'd be good, but I'm not confident in that. We're going to preview all the week 3 action for you. We'll be going over starts, sits, streams, etc., etc.
A punishment beer. Bud Ice. We didn't get to announce it because we still had games going on Monday.
Dan did end up losing.
That's the norm. Bud Ice was the choice because Hopper was nice enough to change it for me so I can pick it up at work.
Yeah, but anything ending in ice seemed like a fitting punishment. Got to beer preview early. I am your wait, I already introduced myself. Hey, you can follow the show at Beerfield FF. You can follow us on YouTube, Beerfield Fantasy Football, like, subscribe, etc., etc. Beerfield FF is Twitter handle. We're live every Sunday, 11 a.m. Come let us answer your questions, fill you in on the latest news. I have the hiccups. That's not good. Fill you in on the latest news, give you all the latest injury updates, answer all your start-sit questions and whatever. That is every Sunday at 11 a.m. right here on the YouTube channel, unless, of course, you're listening to audio, in which case, what are you waiting for? Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, Beerfield Fantasy Football. I already told you what we're doing today, so let's jump straight into it. Let's get to what is fueling Beerfield, which Dan gave you a teaser on.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Dan, what do you got? What two things do you got?
All right, so we got the Bud Ice that you guys saw me showcase on the YouTube channel. As for the last Oktoberfest, I have Lanny Kugel's Oktoberfest. They're out of Wisconsin. This is the last of the 6-pack I bought. If you're happy that this series is over, Hopper has one for you Monday. Spoiler alert. But other than that, you'll start seeing me drink other things.
All right. And I am going away from beer this week. I got some bourbon. I got a Filibuster double cask bourbon. This is aged in both white and red wine barrels.
Wow.
So, Filibuster, kind of an interesting story. They're out of Virginia. They still source some of their juice from MGP in Indiana, which a lot of newer distilleries do. MGP is typically very, very good juice. If you've had like Bullet, for example, you're familiar with MGP. But it is a minority and woman-owned distillery. This is my first go at Filibuster, so we'll let you know what you think about halfway through the episode. Let's go ahead and get into the news. All right, the Giants have announced rookie quarterback Daniel Jones as the team's Week 3 starter. This does not move the needle on anybody, honestly. I don't know that there's that much of a drop-off from Eli Manning to Daniel Jones, so it's really just an interesting watch and see what happens.
I mean, it's got to get somewhat better, I guess. I mean, you still expect them to funnel the offense through Barkley, and you also expect the majority of the share to go through Ingram and Barkley as well. So I agree with you. I don't think this really moves the needle much.
All right. Speaking about OJ Howard's slow start, which I don't think we were speaking about OJ Howard's slow start.
That's thanks to Roto World.
Bucks coach Bruce Arians said the balls will come.
The first thing I thought of when I saw this was the hot dog, like the bunch of hot dogs hitting that chick's face that GIF that people always post when they talk about
Okay, that's called bukkake.
yeah about dick pics and everything else. I just imagine just a bunch of balls hitting Howard in the face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're there, guys. We're there.
Phrasing. All right. As far as that goes, you got to figure OJ Howard's going to get off the snide eventually, but this is kind of something you were worried about. Jameis Winston transitioning to a new offense, Godwin and Mike Evans being the first two in the pecking order, et cetera, et cetera. I do think OJ Howard is something you have to wait out, though.
Yeah, I mean, more on that later. Spoiler alert, I guess. We want to talk about it then. He's part of my segment. You're waiting to see this kind of take place.
Yeah,
it's he's been playing a lot more blocking roles in terms of his routes run per snap, so not looking good.
Yeah. The Lions released C.J. Anderson, then later claimed Paul Perkins off waivers from the Giants. Paul Perkins is somehow still a thing. He was relatively efficient, actually, when he got to play for the Giants, so we'll see if he can do anything in limited work with Detroit. C.J. Anderson just didn't work out. So Meatball, who knows if he'll land someplace or not.
We got a little dynasty nugget. Pick up Ty Johnson.
Yes.
Slim running back, but a great third down back. Very, very athletic and fast, shifty.
Very theoretic-like.
Yeah, if anything happens to carry on or if they decide to limit his touches through pass catching work, Ty Johnson figures to see a bump.
Yep, and that was my first thought, too, is a bump to Ty Johnson.
Yep.
The Los Angeles Chargers signed tight end Lance Kendricks. I don't trust Chargers tight ends not named Hunter Henry.
I don't even trust Hunter Henry.
Well, for different reasons.
Yeah, obviously not because of play, because he's great, but can't stay healthy, so that hurts.
Sean Payton refused to name Teddy Bridgewater as the Saints Week 3 starter. That means Taysom Hill could be a thing. Either way, outside of Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, this kind of killed everything Saints. I don't care if it's Taysom Hill or Teddy Bridgewater. You know, like we've said with Teddy, he was a starter. Hasn't looked great, honestly, in pinch hit duty with them. So you hope that with practice and whatnot, he can get back to what he was if he is going to start. But we know Sean Payton also has a love for Taysom Hill, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I expect I don't want to say a massive, but I do expect a bump in Taysom Hill touches. At least Teddy provides some upside because he's a far better. I would assume he's a far better passer. It can at least somewhat push the ball downfield. Taysom will have some DFS value to him if he gets to start or if he sees significant plays as a cheap option. But in terms of actual season long fantasy, it's just Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara for me.
Yeah. Matt LaFleur said he wants to, quote, even up the touches between Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. So that's exactly what Aaron Jones owners want to hear, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right after, a career game against a good Vikings defense, he earned the right to see Jamal Williams see more snaps. So,
yeah.
Fuck, man.
Jamal Williams is still not going to be a thing, but it does cap Aaron Jones a little bit if this is true. Could just be coach speak, though. We'll have to monitor this situation.
We hope so, but I think it's just more the same what we saw from Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. I don't really know how I feel about this. I'm a little shocked. But the Colts have waived quarterback Chad Kelly, and I can only imagine that a talent such as Chad Kelly will land on his feet someplace. He did nothing to deserve this, though. He performed in preseason. I didn't realize this drop was this long. He performed in... Okay, we're good. He performed in preseason. He performed with Denver in preseason. He's done nothing when he's been given the opportunity, but shown that he can do it. He deserves a shot someplace. He's going to land on his feet. The New York Jets will probably sign if I had to take a wild guess.
I mean, fuck, Jets, Saints, the next quarterback that gets hurt, this Sunday, the next quarterback that gets hurt the following week. So,
yeah,
I think he'll land somewhere. Maybe he gets practice squad. I'm assuming he's probably still eligible for practice squad, so...
I think he is. I think the Jets, you've got to consider in the running, though, with Simeon shredding his ankle and Darnold's mana. They need somebody.
Yeah. Speaking of Darnold.
Speaking of Darnold, Sam Darnold said he has full confidence he'll be ready for their Week 5 matchup against the Eagles. So he's not making out with anybody that's infected anymore. So that's good.
That's good. Yeah, good.
All right.
Right in line for Chris Herndon to come back too, by the way.
Yes. All right. Let's get into some hangovers. By the way, Herndon coming back with Darnold, very, very good thing. Herndon should be rostered. Kick it back to Monday's episode for the full explanation.
Yes, sir.
Hangovers.
All right. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reports LaShawn McCoy his MRI on his ankle showed no significant damage. Both him and Damian Williams did not practice today. Situation to monitor throughout Wednesday, Thursday as you get closer to the week. No significant damage is good news for McCoy. If one plays without the other, they're a must start.
Yes, agree on both.
NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reports Cam Newton, his foot status for week 3 is up in the air. He was spotted at a walking boot. Later, it was reported that the trend is leaning towards Kyle Allen starting this Sunday. We've seen Kyle Allen flash. I don't think it kills DJ Moore or Greg Olsen if Kyle Allen starts. Definitely a bump to Christian McCaffrey. But if you're a Cam Newton owner, be looking for a backup option. More on that in streamers.
I mean, if you want to go back and look at week 17 last year when Kyle Allen started, he was actually pretty good. I mean, granted, I think it was against the Saints, who also played a bunch of their backups. But either way, it's I don't know how much of a drop off. I figured you got to knock him down a little bit, but it's not like Cam was lighting up the field, to begin with. So
yeah, exactly.
I agree with you. I don't think it's that much, if any at all.
Nope. The Jets placed quarterback Trevor Siemian on IR with an ankle injury ending his season. They later signed quarterback David Fales. So David Fales is an insurance piece that knows Adam Gase's offense. He was with him in Chicago. He was with him in Miami. So it's a guy that they brought in that just knows the playbook already. He's not going to be a threat. Luke Falk. Well, I don't know. He might be better than Luke Falk.
I don't want to have to send praise of Luke Falk. But before we get on to the next piece of news, Jimmy Navarro, decently long time listener, I think.
He's been
he
on
likes
YouTube
to answer questions
for his last couple.
He says, what's up, boys? Robert Woods or Demarcus Robinson full point PPR this week? Robert Woods for me.
Yeah, probably Woods for me too. I think that there's a little more insulated with Robert Woods. A little bit more flow to Robert Woods. So yeah.
Most intriguing to change the Robinson points. As we've seen, from the Chiefs, as I think we talked about on Monday, anybody can go off. It could be back to Sammy Watkins this week. It could be, Mecole Hardman. It could be Travis Kelce. It could be another off the street that didn't.
Well, and it shouldn't be a barn burner of a matchup against the Ravens either. That's the other thing. The Rams have the Browns. I'd expect that one to be a little bit more competitive than Chiefs Ravens. And I don't mean that from an offensive perspective, I guess, but it's Pat Mahomes. It's a good defense. But Rams-Browns, I think, is a more even matchup, which could end closer to a neutral game script. And with Chiefs-Ravens, I mean, look, we saw what the Chiefs did to Oakland last week. Lamar Jackson's been good. He could come out and have an okay game against the Chiefs. So, I don't know. It's a tough one for me, really. And Chiefs-Ravens, I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up closer than most people think and more defensive than most people think.
Yeah, I think, I guess we'll get a little off track here, but I do believe that the Ravens can cover the 6.5 points. The 55 is the over-under. Vegas expects this to be a shootout, both offenses. Jimmy said he doesn't like how Goff's moving the offense right now. I completely agree. Cleveland loves to commit penalties, which, keeps drives alive, obviously, especially when the Rams run offense, keeps drives alive, allows them to get more of that red zone work. Woods has a safer floor, in my opinion. You can say I think the ceiling's just as high for him as Robinson. Robinson doesn't have much for a floor. Like I said, it could all go to Mecole Hardman or Sammy Watkins.
And you can not like how Goff is moving the offense, and I don't disagree with that. But the other thing to remember is that this offense didn't play a snap together in preseason. So as the season goes on, this is an offense that figures to get stronger. The figures to see more targets, and it's ones you kind of have to frustratingly stick with a little bit.
You
So
also can see it, from a point, they played against the Panthers, whose offense sucks. The Saints lose, Drew Brees really early on in the game. They haven't played against an offense that can at least push the tempo up pace.
no,
The Browns can.
I mean, they beat the Panthers 30-27, but that wasn't really an up-paced game. That was,
It was
if you watch that one, that was kind of an ugly 30-27. And then, they didn't have to keep pace with the Saints. So we'll see what you get there. And I will always say this, too. Look at your matchup. Look at who your opponent is starting and kind of gauge the temperature there. Because if you do need to try to hit a home run, the Demarcus Robinson is your call. But if you just need to not get killed, Robert Woods is the better option. So that's the other thing I say to most start sits, too, when they're that close. And especially when you got a traditionally floor guy versus kind of a boom-bust guy. Look at what it is that you potentially need. Do you have to try to hit a home run to win that matchup? If so, then the answer is probably Robinson. Not, then it's safer with Woods.
Well, it does help in his full PPR. Woods did see.
It does also. Woods is going to probably see targets. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. That's it.
All right. Jets wide receiver Demaryius Thomas is week to week with hamstring and knee injury, which, not shocking. He wasn't healthy when he got traded.
No, I think he maybe played a quarter for the Jets on Monday.
Yeah. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reports Deshaun Jackson is expected to miss Sunday's game with the Lions due to a groin injury. It's likely going to be sidelined for the Week 4 Thursday night game as well. That does not surprise me. Alshon Jeffrey, who's day-to-day with a calf injury, which is the next note, is the other one I'm watching closely. Either way, Nelson Aguilar figures to see increased target volume here, and I would think Arcega-Whiteside over Mac Hollins is the other one. But, I wouldn't try to get too cute with Deshaun Jackson missing. Just figures to be a little bit more floor for Nelson Aguilar, and, probably more to Ertz and Jeffrey, assuming that Jeffrey goes.
Yeah, it's going to be Aguilar. It's going to be Ertz who get to see. As for Jeffrey and Jackson, if I don't expect either to play this week, then just monitor Monday and Tuesdays, or Tuesday and Wednesday's practice for them before their Thursday night game.
Jeffrey was weird with the way that injury popped up, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does play, but I'd also be very wary if it's reported that he's playing.
Like, for me, this is 4 or 5 years ago with the Bears, where he played every 2 or 3 games, but he could never get fully healthy.
Yeah,
he ended up just being a
kind of been his career
team. Yeah, exactly. So I'd be a little nervous with Jeffrey. You hope that the Eagles decide to sit him for a little bit longer, let him get right.
Yep, and if so, like I said, if Jeffrey misses and Jackson misses, Aguilar's your wide receiver 1. So there's that. Saints place wide receiver Keith Kirkwood on IR again. I guess that helps Draquan Smith, but at the same time, without Drew Brees,
he also didn't practice today.
You kind of gotta play a little bit. So.
Draquan also didn't practice today, but
he's not on IR. So
no, he's not on IR.
There's that.
Little Jordan Humphrey got promoted from the practice squad, so our early wide receiver darling making an opportunity to play this week.
Yeah. So about little Jordan Humphrey, or LJ, super talented. He was a very, very nice player to watch on film. He's a 6'5" guy that plays out of the slot. Showed some decent route running ability, decent hands, but when he tested, it was almost like an Auden Tate playing out of the slot. So
it was like he was the Elijah Holyfield of wide receivers.
Yeah, his athletic testing was a supreme disappointment given what we saw on tape. So he's an interesting one to watch because the game speed didn't necessarily equate to what the testing speeds were. So, but he didn't get better at his pro day either. So it's a super intriguing player to watch at minimum. So if you're a rebuilding dynasty team, F it, stash him.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
He showed the talent on film.
I'm pretty sure we comped to Marquise Colston. I'm not sure what I'm not looking at his play profile metrics to see if they're perfectly comparable. But a bigger body slot receiver in the Saints offense. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be him, but there is some intrigue.
Yeah, there is intrigue. If you're rebuilding dynasty team, stash him.
Yeah.
ESPN's Adam Schefter reports David Njoku with concussion and a wrist injury, seeking a second opinion on his injured wrist, which was confirmed by multiple sources that it was broken. Timetable if he gets surgery is at least 1 month. So read between the lines. I don't want to believe my wrist is broken, but it's pretty clear it's broken. So he's going to be out for a month.
Yeah, I think it might be longer. Demetri Harris, if you're desperate, deep leagues, he was also a popular dynasty stash. In those
Probably better for
leagues.
Rashard Higgins, though.
When he comes back,
he
needs to be healthy because he didn't play either Monday night.
Well, he didn't, but I don't think he was expected to miss long term either. So,
well, no, of course.
So, broken wrist, you're out for a month. With that time that you're out, Landry's the obvious one, but the one people forget about is Rashard Higgins, and him and Baker have rapport. So you take out the tight end. There you go. That's probably where your additional target volume is going.
Next question. This is from Just Daniel. I believe I haven't seen that name before, so welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry for all the ridiculous takes we're about to give.
What up, Daniel?
Should I take Ebron for Robbie Anderson in a trade? If you want to preface, I'm assuming redraft, and the answer I think would still be no for me. I expect Anderson to have some sort of bounce back at some point. Ebron's always going to be competing with snaps and touches, targets.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with the no there without knowing format or anything. I mean, first off, just the wide receiver tight end delta. And Ebron competing with Doyle, you lose luck. You haven't seen the touchdown production or the volume over the first couple weeks. And Robbie Anderson, what we've seen from the last 2 years is he's kind of a slow starter. He turns it on around playoff time late in the season, but he doesn't necessarily give you a lot right out the gate. And you definitely can't expect a lot until Sam Darnold gets back in about week 5. But if you're selling Robbie Anderson, you're selling low. So I think we're both on the Robbie Anderson side of this trade, just because we do expect more from him as the season wears on, because that's what you've seen the last 2 years.
Yeah, I'm not in love with either. Robbie Anderson, like there's a bunch of stuff posted on Twitter. I don't know if you have it and B, have seen it, but his cornerbacks he sees this year are ridiculous. And as for Ebron, as soon as luck went down, like he became even more touchdown dependent on an offense who's not going to score as much points with Brissett as their quarterback as if they had, luck still. So it's not like Ebron's also been off to a hot start. He's had a total of five or 7 targets and 4 catches.
Yeah, it wasn't
for 33 yards.
Because I was looking at him as a potential start of the week before we sat down to do this, and it wasn't pretty. So
yeah. Next question just jumped in from. I'm going to butcher your name and I apologize from Dockish. Kumar.
Kumar.
I have Devontae Adams and someone traded me Austin Eckler and Stephon Diggs for him. I also have Melvin Gordon. Do I trade this or no? So it sounds like it's Devontae Adams for Austin Eckler and Stephon Diggs, and he has Melvin Gordon on the roster. I think Gordon's going to get traded at some point.
I do think Gordon's going to get traded at some point as well, and I think that's when the value is going to rebound. I prefer Adams over Diggs, obviously, and Austin Eckler.
Basic question is, do you think Austin Eckler, like, you still have to think, because Melvin Gordon's still on the roster.
Right.
He's still there. So, with what we know so far, do you think Austin Eckler becomes the new James Conner? And if he comes back, do you think Melvin Gordon and him, like, do you think it just reverts back to what we've seen from the last 2 years?
I think it was, which is still a usable piece. And I think what you're getting here is you're getting 2 starting pieces, a fringe top 12 wide receiver, and you a guy that without Melvin Gordon's a running back 1, or has at least shown that he could be, and with Melvin Gordon's a running back 3. So
I would go no. Like I would rather keep Devontae Adams, and the reason is that you have to really assume Eckler is going to be the next James Conner, and you have to hope that the Chargers trade him, because when Gordon comes back, it could be a 50-50 split, which makes it a more of a nightmare. If it reverts back, then Eckler is just a flex play on a game scripted dependent week. And what we've seen from the Vikings so far is
not great.
Not great for Diggs and Thielen, who are not borderline wide receiver 1s right now. They're barely wide receiver 2s. Like, for me, I'm keeping Adams. Assured volume. He's a surefire wide receiver 1. The guy who has Eckler is trying to a pay up, which is a good thing for him. I do agree with trying to trade, make that trade. I'm trying to keep Adams though.
Yeah, I couldn't fault it either way because
Sure.
the thought is that Melvin Gordon does get traded, and if it's redraft, then I don't care what Austin Eckler is beyond the season. I care what he is this season.
Oh yeah, of course.
And you're getting a running back 1 and a wide receiver 1, but you're gambling at that point. And Devontae Adams, with things the way they are now, is the one I would rather have. But I can also see a scenario where it plays out the other way. I would tend to lean no here, though, just because the upside of Adams. I mean, the elite wide receiver. So
I mean, if you're 0-2,
I'd also
then fucking take the trade. If you're 0-2 and you're looking
for need running back help with Melvin Gordon, if so, then that's when you pull the trigger.
All right. So last question from Jimmy states, not really a starter sit, but as Austin Eckler owner, do you guys think I should sell high with him right now or ride the Eckler wave? This we just talked about.
Again, it depends on depth of your roster to me.
Yeah, I mean, what we learned last year with James Conner and Lev Bell, that is very much in play because I don't think that Gordon is going to be a Charger this year. I think he will get traded at some point. But that's the risk you take. He's going to come back. This isn't the same situation as it was with Bell. He's playing on his last contract, not on a franchise tag. So if you want to sell high, you better ask for a lot. And I would not settle for less than an RB, low end RB, I guess a high 2 and an extra piece.
If you're going to trade Eckler high, I would try to get yourself an insulated running back too that doesn't have a threat to his touches.
Yeah.
If you can.
Joe Mixon would be one target because I do believe he bounces back.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy goes on and states he has David Johnson, Chris Carson, and Josh Jacobs. Chris Carson could be losing touches here soon enough.
Yeah, but I think between Carson, Jacobs, and David Johnson, you're probably fine to sell Eckler high.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And his receivers are Hopkins. You could try to sell Eckler on a guy with Mike Evans, maybe. I don't know who other wide receiver. Juju. You want to target? You want to do Eckler and another wide receiver for Juju because I believe he even bounces back with Mason Rudolph. So there's some options. It's just based on what you feel comfortable with.
Yep. All right. Dontrell Hilliard has cleared concussion protocol. He's going to play week 3 against the Rams. I don't necessarily care other than the touchdown stealing thing. More on that later.
I mean, he does see pass catching work, but he does steal a lot of touches away from Nick Chubb.
More on that later.
Yep.
James Conner said he's good to go for week 3 against the 49ers, but he did not practice Wednesday. Par for the course for James Conner. He probably is good to go, and he's probably going to get hurt again, and you'll have to go through this song and dance again next week.
Yeah, right.
Sterling Shepard is still in concussion protocol. Cody Latimer is not practicing Wednesday for the Giants, and I don't care about Giants wide receivers.
I know.
Albert Wilson's still not practicing for the Dolphins. I don't care about anything that has to do with the Dolphins. Devin Singletary did not practice, something to monitor. You've got more on that later. Mark Andrews did not practice, something to monitor. He's a must start if he plays. Marlon Mack did not practice. He's been good the first 2 weeks, also something to monitor. He's a week-to-week must start. Dallas Goedert did not practice. I mean, you got to watch that one because if they're down wide receivers, you will see more 12 personnel with Dallas Goedert in there. So if he plays, he may even be worth a stream.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Lions have done against them in general, but we've seen
tight ends are such a dumpster
we've seen
fire.
Tight ends. We've seen both
something.
tight ends be we've seen both tight ends be successful when they run a bunch of 12s.
Keenan Allen was a limited participant in practice today. Josh Jacobs was a limited participant. Limited participation early in the week doesn't bother me too much. We'll have more for you on Sunday there. And Troyquan Smith did not practice today, which I don't care right now about Saints ancillary pieces, and I know you don't either. That's something we've kind of beat to death.
Yep.
All right, let's see what we're calling top shelf and rail this week. Who do we love, and who's going to leave you feeling a little bit hungover?
Top shelf or rail?
All right, Dan. Christian Kirk, go ahead and kick us off.
All right, 20 targets the first 2 games, only trails Fitz by 4. I actually love them both this week, but I'm going to go with Kirk. Fun note, he's been tackled twice at the 1 yard line. So I think touchdowns could start coming his way as just the regression bot. Like, cause they had both positive and negative. This is per Roto Grinders is a website I use to help with DFS. He gets a premier matchup against Javion Elliott, who's one of the lowest rated slot corners in the league, which fits both well again for both Kurt and Fitz.
Yeah. All right, I've got what I would consider 3 really bold calls this week. I'm between starts and sits. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Deebo Samuel though. He's had 7 targets and 87 yards last week. You look at what receivers are able to do against Pittsburgh. Tyler Lockett go 10 for 79 and 1 against Pittsburgh in week 2. We definitely saw Philip Dorsett and the Patriots have a good game against Pittsburgh in week 1. This isn't going to be a blowout scenario. The Niners and Pittsburgh with Mason Rudolph should play each other pretty close. Pettis has not been a factor the first couple weeks. Targets had been going Deebo Samuel's way. It's a plus matchup with a backup quarterback in for the Steelers and a secondary that has not been good against wideouts and a wide receiver that's been getting volume that is actually available out there. So I like Deebo Samuel this week.
I love that call. Yeah, I think it's a great flex play.
All right, another guy that I would have loved to have, but I was sleeping on the job, Frank Gore.
Frank Gore, Cincinnati got bitch slapped by the 3-headed running back monster in San Francisco. 259 total rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Well, Gore's efficiency isn't great. It hasn't been great in about 6 years. He's been averaging 15 carries a game. He's 3rd in the league in rushing attempts inside the 5, even though it's only been a couple weeks. And with Devin Singletary potentially missing this week, he just even adds more to the fire. Since he's a bad run defense, they love to feed the ball to Frank Gore for whatever reason. You might as well start paying off on it now.
All right. For me, I am gonna make it. This is the one I would not consider bold. Kenny Golladay against Philadelphia. So Philadelphia gave over 200 yards receiving to Ridley and Sanu last week, 100 yards to McLaurin in week 1. You got 19 targets to Kenny Golladay over the first 2 weeks, 2 touchdowns. That touchdown's gonna save your bacon. We know he's a red zone threat. But when you look at what wide receivers have done against the Eagles and the fact that Golladay is getting targeted, it's something that you have to like. Your eyes got to get a little big. Most people, Kenny Golladay is not somebody I look at right now and consider I got to plug him in every week. This is a week that I want to start Kenny Golladay, though.
I love Marvin Jones, too. If you're looking for a flex play to go on, Marvin Jones is great. To the same points that you just pointed out why you should play Kenny Golladay. Also, if you want to have a little fun DFS, you can stack Stafford, Golladay, and Jones for cheap.
Yeah. Just a plus given what we've seen out of the Eagles secondary. I mean, you can talk Darby and Sidney Jones and whoever as much as you want, but the results say that they've been getting torched.
They wide receiver duels there have gone off against some.
Yep. All right, you got Greg Olsen against Arizona, which Olsen was somebody I called out as a pickup in the waiver wire this week.
Yeah, great play. Look, he's had back-to-back sneaks with 9 targets. Cam Newton's safety blanket is on par. Granted, Cam Newton may not play, but a great safety blanket for a young, inexperienced quarterback is tight end. Arizona has run the most plays so far, so you should expect that this is going to be a high volume passing game. And let's look back at the tight ends that have gone up against the Cardinals. Hawkinson, 6 catches, 131 yards, 1 touchdown on 9 targets, and Mark Andrews went off last week as well. 8 catches for 112 yards, 1 touchdown on 9 targets. So Greg Olsen is lined up for a very nice week.
All right. And I'm going to need a cold shower after this one, but I'm going to say it, and it's going to pain me. Peyton Barber against the New York Giants is somebody I want to start this week. At 125 yards and 3 rush touchdowns given up last week, including a 68-yarder to Frank Gore when they played the Bills. Barber saw 23 rushes in week 2 as the Bucs kind of toned down the up-tempo and went with a more paced offense. Doesn't figure to be a super high-scoring game. You figure Barber's going to get the red zone. You did see the majority of touches last week, and the Giants did give up rushing yards. So Peyton Barber is somebody that I think you throw out there in a flex this week and you can actually feel okay about. And I'm hoping it's the only time this week. I say good, only time this month or year or week or day or whatever, I say good things about Peyton Barber.
I mean, I had Peyton Barber written down before I changed it to Frank Gore because I didn't want to have to talk positive about Peyton Barber either.
That's all right. I did it for you.
Thank you. I know. I appreciate it.
All right, let's go ahead and get to sits. I'm going to let you Perry first you together because you got a couple bingles in Joe Mixon and John Ross.
Yeah. So if you listen to the show, for a while, I'm a huge Joe Mixon fan for fantasy wise. So this one kind of hurts. And I do think that Joe Mixon's a great buy low candidate, but this week might be a bit tough. Well, on paper, the Bills have not been great against running backs. They've also played against two of the best all-purpose running backs, and Lev Bell and Saquon Barkley. And yes, Joe Mixon can be that guy we saw it last year, but he's hurt. I get it. He logged a full practice today, and he should be fine. But the Bengals' offensive line, we talked about it before. We talked about it on Monday's show when we talked about Mike Evans and Joe Mixon. It sucks. And it just got even worse. I think another guy got placed in IR on Monday as well. The offense, while it's better than what we saw from last year in terms of actual injuries, I wanted to see it from Mixon first. It's going to be very difficult to sit him. I get it. It's going to be tough. But there's other flex options. We've seen guys like Matt Breida and, Frank Gore even, which is even, bold their call. But we've seen other running backs that have been in that flex spot to come up. David Montgomery's another guy too as well. And then to speak about John Ross, I'm not chasing his points this week. This is a terrible matchup. He's likely get White, the Bills' best cover corner. And while you can try to chase the garbage time points that John Ross got, you felt pretty fucking terrible playing him for about 40 minutes of that game until it finally got a little bit better towards the end. I'm not trusting him this week. Teller traditionally plays both inside and outside. So while, yes, Ross might not get White on every single play, you will see Javarius White for most of the game. I'm not trying to chase those points this week, and I don't think Cincinnati's going to score a bunch anyways.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White is not something that I want to go up against with John Ross, and I like the mixing call as well.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and go a little bold. This is another one I would consider a little bit bold, not as bold, and say Royce Freeman. My first knock on Royce Freeman is that game script is not in his favor. Yes, we saw him play decently against the Bears last week, who are a stout run defense. However, close game. I do not expect the Packers offense to be as inept as the Bears was, as much as that pains me to say. They're in Green Bay. It's a tough matchup. Royce Freeman is more the runner than what Phillip Lindsay is. Green Bay's got a very good linebacking core. I mean, it's not Chicago good, but when you factor in game script with Royce Freeman this week, it's not something that I'm in love with. Probably going to steer away from him with better options out there.
Yeah, I do agree. I expect Green Bay. Like, you can't just chase what Dalvin Cook just did. You can look back to see what the Bears running game did against Green Bay.
Dalvin Cook's a little bit different of a beast, too. I mean, there's some running backs where if they go off, you just kind of throw that game out, and Dalvin Cook's gone off the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They're running
You got a question.
Okay.
We got a question, and it kind of pairs up with your next player here. Me get wins. Ask, do I start Nelson Aguilar or Terry McLaurin this week? You want to talk about what your scoring is? Me get wins. Let us know. But Hopper's next sit is a guy that you just talked about.
Yep, my next sit is Terry McLaurin. Look, Terry McLaurin has been the best receiver for Washington, and you can't take that away from them. And yes, Emmanuel Sanders, who is a primo route runner and also got Prince of Nakamura on Buster Screen most of the time, did put up 98 and a touchdown. The thing with Terry McLaurin is that I don't expect him to get a Nakamura on screen. I expect that he probably gets a decent helping of Fuller. He's a good route runner coming out of college, but he's still, learning the NFL game. I expect the pass rush to disrupt Case Keenum a decent amount as well. Yes, they've had tough matchups against the Cowboys and the Eagles. The Bears pass rush is better than both of those. Terry McLaurin's something I want to shy away from this week. Now, rest of the season, I love Terry McLaurin. I think he's come out and done better than what most people have expected from him. But against Chicago, that's not necessarily something that I want to bet on. So to answer your question, Nelson Aguilar with at least Deshaun Jackson not playing, I think is going to give you better floor than what Terry McLaurin is going to give you. Upside wise, we've seen Aguilar have some huge games in the past. Yes, McLaurin could break one, but I feel more comfortable with Aguilar than I do Case Keenum under a heavy Bears pass rush with McLaurin likely seeing a lot of Kyle Fuller.
All right, so he said it's a standard 12-person league. I completely agree. Standard does kind of help because the big playability for McLaurin. The Bears secondary is extremely good, and I don't know if Case is going to have enough time to look deep. He went later on to say he traded Keenan Allen for Dalvin Cook. He asked if he got ripped off.
No.
Hell no. Dalvin Cook, I think right now is a part of the elite running back tier. Vikings have ran the 4th most rushing attempts, and Dalvin Cook is leading the league in rushing so far.
What you've
Both
seen
have their injury concerns. Is that?
So I was just gonna say what you've seen from Dalvin Cook the first couple weeks, that 120 to 150 yards on a decent amount of touches. I mean, that's how Zimmer wants to run this offense. So no, I don't think it was a ripoff. I think that getting Dalvin Cook is actually the player I would rather have. And I like Keenan Allen. I like Keenan Allen a lot. He is the heart and soul of that Chargers offense. But especially in standard, give me Dalvin Cook all day.
Yeah, he then later asked if he should flip Dalvin Cook. My answer is no.
No, play him, keep him.
Yeah, I mean,
use him.
Yeah, like he says, he has David Johnson. Cook, you're fine. That's a great start.
You got
I've been
David Johnson and
all
Cook.
year.
That's a winning combination. I'm not trying to flip either one of them.
Yeah, like there's no reason to, because the trades you're going to get are going to be side grades, and you're basically just you're just hoping for something to change. Basically, an injury, and no, there's just no way.
I quite honestly, I think you're trying to flip Dalvin Cook, given what he's done in the first 2 weeks and what he's shown in the past. Potential, that he has. I think that's almost trading just to trade, and that's something we don't recommend. So you write out Cook and David Johnson. That's a great 1-2 punch. Those are two guys that most of the fantasy football community had as top 10 guys, if not higher. And Cook was only as low as he was because of the injury thought.
Yeah, exactly. He went around to say about his receivers. You got Mike Evans, Emmanuel Sanders, Deshaun Jackson, and then Nelson Aguilar and McLaurin. If I'm flipping a running back, I think David Johnson's my flip.
Yeah.
We've seen the inconsistencies of what the Cardinals have done this year, and we've seen the injury starting to kind of show with David Johnson. He missed a big part of the Ravens game with the wrist injury. So,
yeah, no, that would be my flip there as well. And given what Evans hasn't done, yes, Sanders is bouncing back nicely, but it's a low-powered offense. You got a nice piece in McLaurin that's still, you're kind of learning what he is week in and week out. Deshaun Jackson hurt. If you are going to flip somebody, you solidify wide receivers, and it is David Johnson. I agree with Dan. You want to build around Dalvin Cook as a potential playoff run.
Yeah. Jimmy wanted to jump in on this trading talk. He traded Nick Chubb and Gardner Minshew for Andy Dalton and David Johnson. How do you guys feel about it?
I think David Johnson's a net gain over Nick Chubb. Gardner Minshew and Andy Dalton. I actually like Minshew a little bit more, especially given the rush, not just the outfits, but especially given the rushing.
He's the 101 in outfits, bro. He's the true 101 in outfits.
And mustaches. But, he ran for 65 yards. Minshew's an athletic guy that isn't going to kill you. You're not going to get a ton of touchdowns, a ton of passing, but you don't get that out of Andy Dalton every week either. I personally like the Minshew and David Johnson side.
I think it's pretty much even. It's just, I think for both Dalton and Minshew are still pretty chalk for me. I love Minshew. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And Dalton, I could give two shits about him, but I think for redraft wise, they're both wash for me. Johnson and Chubb, you got to go with Johnson because he at least has the touch upside and target upside. And when Kareem comes back, you do expect that to eat into what Nick Chubb does. So,
ooh, I got a trade for you while we're talking trades.
Awesome. Let's keep the trade ride rolling. Who gives a fuck about show script?
I just got offered Derek Carr and George Kittle for Deshaun Watson. And the reason that is useful to me is Dak Prescott is my other quarterback on that roster. So I can get rid of Deshaun Watson and pick up George Kittle. And
is this a single QB league?
Single QB.
All right.
And Vance McDonald.
Have you not matched accept yet? Because
yeah. No, I think I'm going to get George Kittle. I could give a shit about Derek Carr. I think that if I've got Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson with what Dak is doing, and I have the opportunity to add George Kittle, that is something that I absolutely am going to mash the accept button on.
Through 2 weeks, Dak Prescott equals Deshaun Watson from what we've seen from Kellen Moore.
Yep.
Now it could change, obviously, with with Michael Gallup hurt, but yeah, I'm, you know me about Dak this year. I love me some Dak, so I'm mashing that accept button hard.
Oh, I just did. I gotta drop somebody off of my bench.
All right, we'll move on while you do that. We'll keep the show rolling here. Great questions, guys. I love it. I love the start and sits. Love the trade talk here. We'll move on to my next sit while Hopper figures out his trading life. I have OJ Howard. We talked about this earlier. I love OJ Howard, but I gotta see it first. He had 5 targets in week 1, no targets in week 2. I believe he played about 90% of the snaps and ran only 15 routes. That's terrible. They're asking him to block. They don't trust this offensive line. And while it's great to hear that Bruce Arians wants to get him the ball more, we got to see it first. And with tight ends, you can't wait a lot. He's not Travis Kelce. He's not George Kittle. He's not Zach Ertz now. He's not even Evan Ingram, a part of that tier, or Mark Andrews, or T.J. Hawkinson and Greg Olsen. You gotta bench Howard. You don't drop him. You bench him because the upside could be huge when this offense actually figures their life out. But you can't play him right now. You just can't trust it. This reminds me of the Kyle Rudolph situation for the Vikings about 6 years back when the O-line was even worse than it is now, and they kept asking him to actually block. You don't get fantasy points per block. You get fantasy points by catching footballs.
Yes, you do. And that's why that is one of my biggest arguments against snap counts for tight ends. You don't get fantasy points for blocking and just being on the field. You got to do something about being on the field. So
you gotta look at routes run.
Yes.
Routes run is what you want to look at. You want to see them actually out there running fucking routes with their offense.
And hey, targets are good too.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, true.
All right. My other sit of the week, another bold one. I'm gonna go with Nick Chubb.
Boom.
The Rams allowed just 45 rushing yards to Kamara in week 2. Chubb has not topped 20 carries yet. If Hilliard's healthy, you mentioned it earlier, Dan, he can cut into the receiving work. We saw him steal goal line work. Offense is also going to need to get something going in order to kind of offset some stuff. So, Chubb looked good against the Jets, but that was a Jets team that lost Trevor Siemian, that didn't have Sam Darnold, and was relying on Luke Falk. So, in this particular game where Chubb's got the Rams, I'd expect this to be more of a pass-heavy game than a run-heavy game. So I am leaning away from Nick Chubb this week.
Bold talks. We told our listeners to sit Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon. It's gonna be hard to sit them both. It's gonna be definitely hard to sit Nick Chubb, but
hey.
I love the call. If you have better flex options, if you feel like you can survive, not looking for a lower ceiling from Nick Chubb this week, especially if you think Hillary is going to take more of that work. And even Ernest Johnson, who took Pat's catching work. I mean, that doesn't bode well for Nick Chubb overall.
No.
And even beat out guys like Ernest Johnson or Dontrell Hilliard.
It's a game script thing for me with Chubb. You're hoping for a touchdown because I don't think you're going to see much over 50 yards on the ground.
So with that being said, are you looking to flip Nick Chubb right now? Are you trying to ride high on his performance against the Jets?
If you can, yeah.
I love it. It's a good call.
I'm fine with flipping Nick Chubb. If there's somebody that's especially high on Nick Chubb, still high on the Browns offense. Now, I will say that I do not think this is the peak that Nick Chubb's value is going to be this season. I do think that he's going to string together a couple of really good weeks, but I do think that what you've seen out of the Browns offense right now early on, at least through 2 weeks, is a little bit of inconsistency. So, and an inconsistency especially in how Chubb is going to be used. All right.
All right. Sorry.
Let's go ahead and hit our weekly specials. Let's talk about streams.
Weekly specials.
All right, weekly specials. I'm going to go ahead and kick this one off with Jimmy Garoppolo against the Steelers. They've given up 303 to Russell Wilson, which is, allegedly a run-first offense. They gave up 341 and 3 to Tom Brady. 641 yards and 6 touchdowns over 2 weeks. Pretty terrible. Jimmy Garoppolo had 3 touchdowns last week, proving his efficiency. You got the Steelers running out with a backup quarterback, a secondary that hasn't been good, a 49ers offense that steamrolled last week, did not look terrible in week 1. I will bet on Jimmy Garoppolo as somebody I want to start this week against a defense that's given up 600-plus yards and 6 touchdowns through 2 weeks.
Love it. Matthew Stafford, 26.1% owned. He's a QB5 right now in leagues. Like, let that sink in. It's a QB5 right now. He gets another fantasy-friendly matchup against the Eagles, who in total against Matt Ryan and Case Keenum have thrown 6 touchdowns, over 700 yards total on 40 plus attempts. While the pace of them may not reach 40 targets, Matthew Stafford being fully healthy from his I think it was a thumb injury and back injury last year, looks like the Matthew Stafford of old. And it looks like Darrell Bevell has kind of pivoted away from being just a strictly run-focused offense, which is fantastic to hear.
Yep. All right. I don't disagree with that. Obviously, I like Stafford with the Galladay call earlier on. So,
yeah.
Tight end wise, I'm gonna go with Trey Burton. And this is a weird one for me, and this is one that I'm not really basing off of statistics. Why? Because the tight ends that are less than 60% owned are god awful, and you're just trying to take a shot in the dark here.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really have no reason for this other than it's against Washington. They gave up a Witten touchdown. They gave up 56 yards to Zach Ertz. That's not like insane production, but it is some production. And I think if the Bears are going to continue to try to get this offense going, Trey Burton has to be involved in it. It can't be one read to Allen Robinson and try to run David Montgomery all the time. I think you got to get somebody else involved. I think Trey Burton is somebody that you can get involved and unlock another dynamic of this offense, which I think the Bears are desperately trying to do. And Washington's a little bit softer of a defense in order to make that happen against. So I am going to lean Trey Burton, given the lack of other attractive options here.
Yeah, speak of non-attractive options, Tyler Eifert, 5 targets in its first 2 games apiece. He finally got a touchdown last week. We know that Dalton likes to look his way in the red zone. We know that the offense can produce a lot. So when they get down there, if they get down there, Tyler Eifert is an intriguing option for them without an AJ Green there to also be a big bodied receiver in the end zone. Again, we don't love these picks, but we don't have much to work with. All the plus 60% guys are guys that you're playing every week anyways. I know that Greg Olsen is on the cusp of that, but he's not going to be there after this week when he blows up. Tyler Eifert, you're hoping for a touchdown. Those 5 targets could pan out to be something more. I don't love this matchup at all, but you're just hoping for a touchdown here.
You might hate the fact that I just dropped Greg Olsen to accept that trade. I mean, it's George Kittle coming in. I don't really have to keep Greg Olsen for any reason, but
it depends on that. It's hard to trade tight end. Like I'm assuming it's the one tight end league.
So it is a single tight end league, and here's the problem: I got Hunter Henry on IR, and I had Vance McDonald and Greg Olsen on the roster.
Yeah,
and
it's not like you can flip George Kittle right now because he hasn't really done much. So
yeah, so give me Kittle and give me Vance McDonald, who looked good with Mason Rudolph, and I'm gonna drop Olsen, and I'm actually probably gonna drop Carr after the trade's completed and pick Olsen back up.
Yeah, so basically you traded Watson for Kittle, which is still
I'm perfectly fine with that in single tight end, single quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great trade on your part.
All right. Defenses. I am going with the Seahawks. My basic reason is the Saints are starting a backup quarterback. And whenever you start a backup quarterback, you look like you're going to throw the offense out of sync. Seattle does have a decent pass rush. And, again, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, here's a bunch of defenses, try to pick one. I expect the Saints offense to be slowed down, and I expect Seattle to at least give you a decent floor. The one thing you want out of your defense is please don't kill me, basically. And I don't think that happens with them.
Yeah, I saw the Cowboys here, and I figured I'd give you a softball. So if the Cowboys are available, pick them up. They got Miami this week.
Yeah, absolutely. That was too obvious for me to put there.
Yeah, like they're under 40% owned, I believe, right at this point. So if they're there, please pick them up. If not, pivot it. You can pivot to the Saints, or not the Saints, the Seahawks. You can pivot to my pick, the Green Bay Packers. They generated 5 turnovers in 2 games and also a block kick. They've only given up 19 total points, and I'm sorry, but the Broncos are more of the Bears' offense than the Vikings' offense, so I don't expect a lot of points scored from them. Yes, the Broncos have been pretty good against defenses. They've only given up 5 sacks and 1 turnover, but Green Bay is a lot better team than what they've faced so far in terms of their offense and not defense. The Bears are fantastic. The offense should be able to at least put some pressure on them, make Flacco have to throw a little bit more, which means more sacks, more turnovers. So if you can get the Patriots or Cowboys or I guess even the Seahawks, there's a good pivot to the Packers and to the Seahawks.
All right. Let's hit a review, and then we'll go ahead and give you our you call it and call it an evening.
Beer review.
And other things.
And other things.
Probably should change that. Yeah, eventually. All right, Dan. You had another Oktoberfest. I've had Lightning Kugel's Oktoberfest, actually, so go ahead and give your review on it.
It's okay. Like, it's not as sweet as like 4204s or as Civil Life's, the other 2 American ones I've had. It's more of that traditional Marzen where it's very light. It's not super malty, which means it's also not super sweet. It's very light. The color on the drink was actually about medium. I would probably lean away from this if I'm going for an Oktoberfest. Not a nice. It's a decent way to finish the Oktoberfest 6-pack series that I decided to do. And as for the Bud Ice, I've been told from legends past that dwarvens would come to the mountains and they would bring water from the Budweiser River to make this incredible Bud Ice drink.
Budweiser River a thing?
No, it's not. At least I don't think so. Basically, Bud Ice is just a little bit stronger. It's kind of like Bud Platinum, but more malty
and equally as much of a headache.
And equal as much of a headache. So I'm slightly buzzed because of it's at least 6% almost. It's 5.5%. So at least there's a bit of booze there, if that means anything. So
nice.
I've been 0-2 and I've been 0-2 against you, and this is my punishment.
I went a little bolder. I'm trying to softball you one this week. We can't have you drinking all the bad beer.
I mean, it's my own fault. I'm actually hoping for Joe Mixon to go off, which is why I think I picked him, is because my last 2 running back calls have gone off.
Every week's a new week.
Top 5. It's been top 5 RB finishes for both Henry and Jones. So I own a lot of Mixon. So I'm hoping that I lose out on that.
Just luck of the draw. We do 16
right.
weeks. We're probably going to end up 8-8. All right. I was drinking Filibuster's double cask bourbon, and so first off, this is a blend of their own juice and MGP's juice, and it's very, very much an MGP juice when you drink it. You get a heavy sweetness with a moderate burn on the way through the middle of it. It's super light on the mouthfeel, which is indicative of how young their bourbon is that they're blending with it. Usually bigger mouthfeel, older bourbon. This is definitely not an older bourbon, but the flavors on it are good. It starts off floral, kind of like it's aged in white and red wine. So the front end of it is where you get more of your white wine. It starts off a little bit floral with a kind of a lighter, almost citrusy fruit taste. It gives way to that typical bourbon taste where you're gonna get kind of like a brown sugar sweetness with a slight burn throughout, and it gives way to a lot of dark fruit and kind of a dry mouthfeel like you'd get off of like a cab almost. So overall, it's a really good drinker. I do prefer it a little bit more on ice than I do straight. But for review purposes, I always try to review bourbon straight. This one, though, very, very good for something that I've heard things about Filibuster, but they're not typically like overhyped or something you hear a ton about. So this is a really good bourbon, though. And again, if you like anything else MGP does, which is going to be, they've got a hand in Belle Meade, they've got a hand in Bullet. This is very, very much them in the middle, but with Filibuster's own twist on it.
I'm gonna have to see if we can pick that up because that sounds super interesting. Someone who loves Angels Envy and that podcast.
Yeah,
type of
well,
finish.
AMGP's and Angels Envy is another one that
Yeah,
started outsourcing. So that, or
exactly.
you just come visit sometime, and the bottle will definitely
I'm
still be here. I don't go through bottles that quick.
No, I know. I'm sure we'll be up there sooner than later. So,
All right. That's what we got for you. Let's get into You Call It and call it a show. Thank you, Line and Kugels and Filibuster.
You call it.
All right. So we pick a DFS play and a bet. So my DFS play this week is John Brown. I guess I should give some analysis on that, shouldn't I? That's kind of what we're here
love
for.
it. No, just John Brown.
Just John Brown. No, the Bengals have, or the Bills have Cincinnati. John Brown has been targeted through the first 2 weeks. He had over 120-yard game, 73-yard game. Cincinnati's not been great against wide receivers. This is a game where I think the offenses can pretty well keep up with each other. It's going to require throwing. John Brown is going for a paltry 5,500 on DraftKings. Perfect set as a wide receiver 2 or 3 with big upside like he normally has, but I think he's also going to show you some floor this week, just like he did last week.
Yeah, I love the John Brown call. I actually have him paired up with Josh Allen's in my Josh Allen and John Brown stacking. Not a terrible stacking in cash games. Definitely a decent one in tournaments.
All right. You've got Marquise Brown.
Yeah, so speaking of guys who can hit on both cash and tournament games, Marquise Brown, 13 targets last week at 8 receptions on those. So you got to see the floor come up. Also played at 67% snaps, which is also great. I think you ran about 25, 30 routes, somewhere around there, which is expected to go up when you play against the Chiefs in a little bit higher paced game. Right now he's priced at 6,100 on FanDuel. He's a great pivot receiver if you're looking to pay down on receivers, which is what you want to do generally in both cash and in tournament styles when you're looking for more value than you are looking for that same cost per point that you're looking for. Been fantastic with the Ravens to start this year. Him and Andrews have been great for Lamar Jackson, which is also great stacking for looking to do game stacking. Is Ravens and Chiefs just expect that to be the norm for a lot of people. And his actual projected ownership is under 2%, which is also fantastic for those tournament plays when you're looking to kind of hit on a player that most people may not have.
I would agree with that. All right. And for the game bet, I got 49ers and the Steelers. The Steelers are a 1-point favorite, and I think the 49ers can actually win this game. It's actually one I'd be in favor of taking money line on. Backup quarterback, the 49ers have actually looked good the first 2 weeks in all facets of the game. Steelers defense hasn't looked great, and the offense has looked even less great. So I'm actually not a fan of the Steelers being favored in this. And, at a 1-point spread, this is something that I'm almost just like, yeah, you might as well bet the money line if you're betting on 1 point.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably going to be the same amount of odds that you're getting back.
Mm-hmm.
As for the Cardinals, they're 2.5 favorites. They're 2.5 underdogs against the Panthers at home. I do expect this to go down, so hopefully you can get this in when the actual line is this. I expect this to be a pick'em game, if not leading towards a -1 Arizona. So if you can get 2.5 points, if you can get over 2 points to spare, I would take it. I think the Cardinals are going to right the ship at home this week and kind of get their shit figured out. You love the pace and what you can see from Cliff Kingsbury. You just need to see better. You just need to see better red zone calling and that fourth quarter play calling when the game's starting to get wind down. But I do expect the Cardinals to get the shit figured out this week against a very beatable Panthers team.
I'd agree with that. The money line. Ooh, wow, that changed.
It's gonna look bad. So I did my picks last night. This is before it became pretty noticeable that Kyle Allen's gonna play. I fully expect this line to flip. I would still take Arizona at minus probably 3.
So I think I got bad odds on the San Francisco Pittsburgh game as well. Yeah, San Francisco is now favored by 6.5 from what I'm seeing. So
-1. I don't know where you would see that. Then.
Well, I picked an article that might have not been up to date. So, don't love that as much. I still
There's
like
not a lot of great. I mean,
So,
there's
screw
not a
it.
lot.
I'm
Like,
just gonna flip it. San Francisco money line. That's my lock.
okay.
San Francisco beats Pittsburgh. Let's just keep it. I'm gonna keep it simple for mine this week, given
That's
that
fair.
new information. I'm even gonna update it in the sheet for when we go back and look. 49ers money line.
That's fair.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that.
that's the easiest pivot I can make right now, and that's kind of what I said anyway when I said that. I think that I don't know that they'll win by 6.5, but I am confident that the 49ers will win that football game.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's all we got for you. That's all we got for you this week. Be sure to tune in on Sunday where we'll have all of your start sits. Be here to answer all of your questions and every other little thing your heart could possibly desire. I am at Hot BFF with 2 P's. He is at Theory BFF with 2 F's. Dan, anything to say before we catch everybody on Sunday? Are you here Sunday?
I will be here Sunday. I will be here Monday. I will not be here next Wednesday.
No, you're not going to be here Wednesday.
I will be at a work trip. But more on that later. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you Sunday.